That's all very interesting to read about it, but actually I want to see it. And to make this happen, I think I need some stuff. So let's check out what we have to make this happen. So as you saw, that's not so much stuff, right? But that's some stuff, and it's possible to do a picture of the Orion Nebula with this. There are only some minor obstacles I have to deal with. One is the enormous amount of light pollution, because I live in Central Europe. So if you want to know more about your local light pollution, you can go to lightpollutionmap.info, and there you will get light pollution indices for around the world, not just in Central Europe. And I'm living next to a street, very busy street, yay! I have no telescope, as you saw. And I have no star tracker. So it's not possible to do long exposures, otherwise I would see the star trails. So, but that's what we have to deal with, right? Right. And it's possible. So I will show you how to do this. Okay. So I forgot to mention that my camera setup, this one, has a focal length of 15 to 45 millimeters, and has a f number of 3.5 with a 15 millimeter setting. So the f number, if you don't know and if you're a beginner, so the f number is an indicator how big the opening of your lens is. So if the number is low, you have a big opening, and if you have quite a big number, f number, like 3.5, like I have, you have a relatively small opening. That means of course, with a bigger opening, more light can get into your camera and to the sensor, and that's of course better. So if you have this limitation, like as I have no telescope and I have a 15 millimeters, let's say 15 millimeters focal length camera setup, that means I have a wide angle telescope, or not a telescope, but the objective. I need quite bright objects for if you want to capture the Milky Way, then it's very good to have a wide angle setup, because you can capture many stars. But if you want to make a photo of a deep sky object, that's not so good actually. So I have a f value, as I said, of 3.5. So what I need an object which is quite bright. So in astronomy, brightness is a big topic. So there are different kinds of brightness, if you wish. So the apparent magnitude says how bright an object appears. So if you have a lower apparent magnitude, the object is brighter. If you have a high number of the apparent magnitude, the object is not so bright. So if you go lower, the moon, for example, has an apparent magnitude of about -13. And the sun, for example, has an apparent magnitude of about -27. Very bright. And one of the brightest objects you can choose for beginners to make a photo, astrophoto, is the Orion Nebula. And to get an idea about the constellation and so on, and also brightness, you can use the software. It's called Stellarium. And yeah, here you have it. You have your night sky with certain objects, and you can click on it and get information. You also get information about the brightness. Here it's absolute magnitude, and to get an idea about the constellation, you can this one. You can check this mark, and you get the constellation. And yeah, so you can see this is Orion, the Orion belt of Orion, and here you get the Orion Nebula. So it's quite bright, and of course you also have other very interesting nebula, like the Horsehead Nebula, it's here. So yeah, and also other Running Man Nebula and so on, and others. So we want to make a picture with our DSLR of the Orion Nebula. So these 3 stars are very helpful to find the nebula, but this one is actually so bright that you will anyway see it. So yeah, now we know where it is, and so let's go to the balcony and make a picture of it. So now I have set up my camera. So the camera is ready, and now we have to check the orientation. That's why I used a compass. You should wait until you have good weather conditions without clouds and as dark as it can get. So that means also that it is a good idea to check your calendar for the moon phases. So to make astronomical pictures, it's very good to take pictures at new moon or days before new moon. That means it's quite dark, and the bright full moon or half moon will not influence your results or the brightness. So the first thing you do is change to manual mode to be free of choice of your settings. So then I changed the f number to a wide opening, and then I changed the exposure time, as you can see here. So then I changed the ISO number, and before I used my smartphone to do the remote access to the camera, I used the shutter on the display with a 2-second delay, because that's important not to have a shaking of your camera. It's important to change your format to RAW format. Usually I take both JPEG and RAW format. You also, as you can see here, disable all stabilizer and also turn off long exposure noise reduction. Check if you're in manual focus mode. If not, change it to manual. Okay. So in the beginning, when I started astrophotography, my biggest problem was to find a focus. Because especially when you don't have a Bahtinov mask to get the right focus. Here's a good animation which shows you how this works. And yeah, it's a great tool. But with my limited focal length of only 15 millimeters, I cannot use this Bahtinov mask. So what I'm using to focus is using the digital zoom. So I'm searching for a bright star and I make it centered in my display, and then I rotate the focus ring on my camera lens and make the dot as tiny as it can get. So either you have a live view and you can zoom in, or you just make a photo and see the photo you captured and zoom in and check if you have a focus star. So yeah, that's my first picture of a deep sky object ever, and I'm very happy with it. Of course, it's far away from perfection, as you can see, of course. I have really still some noise. You can see some star trails, so the exposure time was probably too long, or was too long. That's not so good. But this is something I can improve, and I will improve as far as I will get some good weather conditions and so on. This video is intended for beginners like me, so it's far away from perfection. I'm not a professional with post-image processing, as you can see, so noise and so on. There's some potential in this, picture, I think I can improve this picture. As I mentioned before, this is a proof of concept. What can you accomplish with a very limited equipment set up and quite bad conditions here in the Central Europe, in the city. I have my street light, I have cars, I have crazy neighbors. They are preparing food at 2 or 3 in the morning. Light on, off, on, off, on, off. It's crazy. The light pollution is really horrible here. So, but as I said, it's a proof of concept. I'm really happy with it. It's my first ever picture. I did the processing at least a little bit, and yeah, I'm very happy. And here are some tips you can apply to even improve your results without buying expensive gear. So if you're a beginner as I am, here are some tips you can do to improve your pictures and your results without buying something. So the first thing you can do is change your location to a darker area. You will get much better results. The second thing you can do, as I mentioned before, is taking pictures at new moon or days before new moon. So you don't have the bright moon, which will heavily influence your pictures. What you also can do is, and what you should do, is check your weather forecast to have the optimal weather conditions you can possibly get. Another important thing you can do is playing around with ISO number, exposure time, and of course focus. So actually the most important thing is focus. So always watch the focus of your star or object you want to photograph. So even if you're very good in image processing, that can do nothing for you if your pictures are all out of focus. Another thing you can do is increase the number of pictures you're capturing, and then use a stacker software to stack your photos. And another very important thing is learn to improve your image processing skills. So if you have quite good pictures and if they are all in focus and if you have no star trails, you really can improve so much with image processing. So if your image processing skills are very good, you can make a lot of what you have. There are so many YouTube tutorials you can use, and for me it was a big help. So I had a lot of fun doing these pictures and also doing the video. I hope it was helpful for you. Maybe you're also a beginner, and I would appreciate thumbs up and maybe a subscription. And for more material, I will definitely do. So in an upcoming video I will focus on how I did the image processing after stacking. So maybe that's interesting for you. So that's all folks, I hope you had some fun and see you next time. Clear skies.